Hello and welcome to Twin Talk. This is Angie and I'm here with my sister Joy. And today we're going to be discussing a book called You Want Fries with That? So, You Want Fries with That was a book that Joy and I both listened to on Audible, and it's by Prioleau Alexander. Isn't that how he said his name?
I think that's how he pronounced it, yeah.
Prioleau Alexander. And it was released December 10th of 2013, so it's been out a while. It was narrated by a gentleman named David Marantz, and it is 6 hours and 9 minutes long, so it wasn't too bad.
No, it seemed like a pretty quick listen.
6 hours is, for you and I, that's not a lot.
Mm-mm.
No, it was pretty quick. So, and it received 5.5 stars. So, just real quickly,
5.5?
Yeah.
Out of 5?
I just wrote down. I wrote down 5.5 stars.
Okay.
Wow, someone gave it an extra star, an extra half a star.
It.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe it was a typo. Anyway, so here's how the summary reads. Ever fantasized about quitting your job and starting over? Prioleau Alexander did just that. Here is his laugh out loud funny, endearing, and humbling exploration of life at minimum wage. Alexander walked away from a lucrative career as an advertising executive. Over the next year, he worked minimum wage jobs as a pizza delivery man, ice cream scooper, construction worker, ER technician, and even a cowboy on a Montana dude ranch. He reveals a side of America that is rarely seen and questions the state white-collar notions of a deeper, more meaningful life beyond the cubicle. Prioleau proves unequivocally that the grass is not always greener on the other side. So, Joy, how did you come across this book?
I think this was one of the Audible originals. I think this was a freebie.
Too. Yeah.
Which I'm shocked because I'll just go ahead and say it right now. I loved this book.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. Mm-hmm. He said things that need to be said.
Mm-hmm.
And he just seems like a really humble, realistic guy. I loved this book.
Yes. And if I recall, it's been a while since... We're really behind on our podcast, so they're kind of building up on us. We've listened to or read several books. We just haven't had time to do a podcast over them. But what I remember is you calling one night and saying, I want you to listen to this book and just kind of tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's it called? And you're like, you want fries with that. Well, just the title alone kind of made me chuckle.
Yeah.
And anyway, it wasn't long till I was listening to it and I was just laughing. And
well, I'll have to say, remember back to the old Bobby Bones thing?
Oh, yeah.
And I kept convincing
so were you like leery to ask me?
So that's
you were leery to be high on this book because you were afraid I wouldn't like it?
So if you've ever listened to our podcast before, I just kept on and on and on about this bare bones book and how funny it was.
Yeah.
And then when Angie listened to it, she's like, yeah, it is okay.
Yeah.
But then I read this book and I was like, oh my gosh. This blows Bobby Bones away. This is has some true, to me, true laugh out loud moments. Many, many laugh out loud moments.
Yes, I agree.
But when I called you, I knew if I built it up and was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. Mm-hmm. I was like, so I just played it cool. I was like, just listen to this and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I've noticed that lately. Several times you've called me. It's like, just give this book a listen and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
You don't build it up in any way.
If she even thinks it's a tenth as funny as I do, did you think it was funny?
Yes. Okay, so, and I've discovered something. We talk about things being laugh out loud funny.
Yes.
Well, there's two categories of laugh out loud. There's the one that makes you laugh out loud, and then there's the one that makes you snort. Okay,
yes.
This book made me snort.
Okay.
I mean, seriously.
Snort-worthy.
It was snort-worthy.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm telling you, there were many times that I was driving down the road and listening to this, or maybe even back in my bedroom, and I would just laugh out loud, and my daughter would come in there and go, what's so funny, Mommy? Tell me, is this a true laugh out loud book?
There was a couple of times I was listening to it as I was falling asleep, and I would just bust out laughing and giggle, and my husband was like, Corby was like, what is so funny? And I'm like, it's just this book I'm reading.
The way he described
funny.
The customers in the ice cream shop, the way he described the training to be the pizza boy, I mean, he is hilarious.
Yeah, he is very, 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 very funny.
Yes.
Okay, so all right, so we've established it's a very funny book. Super funny. But now I will say this, because how you were hesitant to help me here. You were hesitant to just really
Recommend
recommend and just and really brag on this book. Well, so we were driving home the other day, and we're occasionally we'll listen to our podcast when we're driving home. Me and Corby will, just to help if it's a long trip, just to help pass the time.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you've got to listen to this book. And so I put in You Want Fries with that, and I found a certain spot, and it was just kind of, I don't know if it was just because he was listening, and it was like, it did not seem funny. So now there's like a psychological aspect to this.
Maybe it's because you just threw it into the middle of the book and you didn't start from the beginning.
And I thought,
to start from
there's
the beginning.
almost this pressure when you're listening with someone else, like you just want them to think it's funny.
Yes.
And I finally got to the part where these girls were sampling the ice cream, and he thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I didn't ever feel that same euphoria that I felt in the beginning.
That's how I feel with you. I'm like, I want Angie to think this is as funny as I do. But then I'm like, okay, don't build it up, because if she doesn't, it's going to hurt.
And that's what I'm afraid, like our listeners, I'm afraid that if we build it up so much that they're going to listen to it and they're going to be expecting too much. But honestly, I mean, it was, we both thought it was funny. If you have a
sense of humor at all, I just feel like there will be some laugh out loud moments for them.
So let's just give some examples, just so they'll kind of know what we're talking about. So some of the jobs that he was he was a white collar worker. He worked for an advertising agent. Apparently he was pretty high up the ladder and made a lot of money.
Yes.
And then one day he just had it, and he's like, I'm done with this. And he just kind of had been exploring this idea of, what would it be like? And he jokingly told a guy at a party that he was a pizza delivery man, and that it was like a lawyer. And the lawyer was like, no, really, man, what do you really do for a living?
Yeah.
And he said it just really took him aback that was his reaction, and it kind of pushed him forward to really explore some of these minimum wage jobs. So some of the jobs he actually worked at was an ice cream scooper. He was a pizza delivery guy. He worked construction for a while. He was an emergency room
sort
tech.
of ER tech or something.
He tried to get on at a big box company, but they never did call him after he submitted his application.
Yeah.
And then he was like a foreman on some type of chuck wagon,
like a
dude ranch trail
deal.
or something like that. So let's talk about, just for a minute now, did you have a favorite part of the book?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to choose because there were so many funny parts, but I think my favorite part was where he talked about scooping the scream. So scooping the scream was when he worked at this ice cream parlor, and he was kind of having fun. He was enjoying it, and like one of the college kids said, wait till you hit your 5,000th pink. Because what do you mean by that? He goes, the little pink spoons you give samples. And he just goes into this whole diatribe about how people, basically they'll try 20 different flavors and then they'll order something totally different. And it's, in other words, they mean once you worked at an ice cream parlor and you've given a customer the 5,000th pink spoon to taste the ice cream,
sample.
That's when you break. That's when you hate the job. That's when you hate the customers. But the way he tells it, it is so funny.
He goes through the exact conversation he had with every customer, and then he said, now repeat that conversation over another 1,000 times.
And I just love the way he observed the customers and he categorizes them. Now, I will say he does talk about weight some, and I know that overweight people like me probably would be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're overweight, I could see being offended.
Yeah.
He does make a few fat jokes, so I could see if someone were overweight, I could see them get offended at some of the jokes.
I thought about that.
He kind of said it more in a way of being healthy and not.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it. The way I took it was he was more concerned about your health.
Yeah, I didn't ever take it that he blatantly was just making fun of fat people. But he, in his observations, it was true, though. There was a group of people that would come in that were overweight, and they tended to act a certain way.
Yes.
You know, and it was very funny. And I'm kind of like you. I'm not Miss Skinny Pants or nothing.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel like, because I was laughing at it, it wasn't because I was laughing at because people were overweight. It was just funny the way he said it.
And then the way he described all the pizza boys as being stoners, in a pot. But then later he says no. He expected them all to be that way, but he said next thing you know, he's working with Eddie Haskell and, I'm sorry, the Beaver, and, he names off all these Richie and Potsy, he names all these clean cut people. So, even though he kind of generalizes, and maybe some people might take it as offensive, in the end, he usually compliments these people. He's complimentary of their work ethic and what type of people they are, and how that it's not their fault they're there.
Exactly, and that's to me that's the whole point of the book. Is he's wanting us to see that these are people who are trying to make a living, who deserve our respect, and who deserve a little bit more respect as far as tips go, and how we treat them, and how our economy could not make it without these.
I do think it's funny
workers.
that he talked about the pizza delivery boys. By the time they do their maintenance and pay their gas and all that, sometimes they're just breaking even or even losing money.
Right.
And it's funny because right after I had read this book, lo and behold, I had the conversation with someone. We had ordered pizza, and they had said, I'm not leaving them a tip.
Oh.
They pay them good enough there, I'm sure. And I said, I don't know. According to this book I just read, so they're not breaking even. And anyway,
I think they depend on their tips.
Long story short is, right after I read this book, it's an older lady, and I understand it's a different generation. She's like, I'm not leaving a tip. And I thought, well, my husband and I always leave at least a $5 tip.
Yeah.
Because it's usually and it's poor little college kid who's driving an old beat up car that barely runs. And I was so glad he said at least leave a 5, at least make it worth their time out there. And he made the comparison with a waitress. They're in the restaurant, they bring you a few drinks, they bring you your food, and they make some pretty big tips. And then you got this poor little guy or girl or whoever driving all over in their own vehicle.
And bringing your dinner to your front door.
Yeah, bringing it to your front door. And they're lucky, he said, to get a $1 or $2 tip. And he's just talking about how stingy a lot of people are with their tips. And he says never again will he leave a tip less than $5 for a pizza delivery boy. And I totally agree with that.
And when I'm at Sonic, I was always real, which I'm very structured in the way I think about everything. I wish I could get out of this box I'm in, but I'm always thinking, okay, 10%. I always want to give 10 to 50%. But now, especially after reading this book, when I'm at Sonic or somewhere, I don't think in terms of what my overall cost was. I think in terms of this little girl's trying to make some money.
Exactly.
I'm going to give her the however much I can, the best that I can.
And I will say a lot of times the people serving me are my students, people I've had in class. And a lot of times I know their story. I know that they're hard workers. I know what kind of person they are. And I'll try to give a little bit bigger tip just because I know that, that they're out there busting it, just trying to make a few extra dollars.
Yeah. So I know we've already talked about the ice cream, but just this is just one of the things that we're talking about how he categorized people. And this, to me, that was one of the funniest sections.
Yeah.
So he talked about the pinks. He talked about there's a group of college girls that would come in who were overweight. And then there was the group he called the beautiful people.
Yeah, that was funny.
There was a group he called the ear touchers, the long-suffering dads, and the towel throwers. Do you want to explain who the towel throwers are?
The towel throwers are people who are just so obese and so overweight. They're like, just forget it. I'm not even going to pretend I'm on a diet. I'm not even going to pretend I'm just going to order one of everything.
Yeah, but to me, the funniest part of the book was he would describe, okay, if there were college girls in line and the beautiful people came in.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of that, was how the different categories interacted. They size up body mass, first of all.
Yeah.
And then you just have to read it.
Oh, he said something like body mass is exchanged.
Yeah, body mass info is exchanged.
Yeah. And then like the ear touchers were the really rich women,
really wealthy women
who didn't have to work, and they were always tanned, and they were constantly
comparing how much they pay for their maid service.
Yes.
And had the 50-gallon purse.
Yes.
And how they're always just so busy, they don't have time. They're always super interested in an article, or they're on their phone,
on their phones, or they're whispering to their girlfriend that's next to them. It
was very interesting to hear how he categorized everything, but more interesting is how those groups interacted. It was fascinating how he described all that.
And to me, one of the funniest parts was when he was the pizza delivery guy. On his first night, they showed him how to clock in, and he said he was on this ancient computer that was probably around during when the first computers were invented.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, hit enter twice, hit the number 222, now hit enter again twice.
Space bar,
enter. And he's like, and he said, oh my God, he goes, I am not smart enough to be a pizza delivery man.
And so he asked his boss, why do we hit enter 4 times? He's like, it's just how it is, go with it.
Yeah.
So it is he's always talking about the training and the employees and just his experiences. I highly recommend this book.
And then one of the stories when he was delivering the pizza that I thought was so funny was the guy was kind of stoned. They had ordered the pizza, and he called him. He's like, "Can you tell me again where you live? I can't find your address." He goes, "Well, there's a bunch of people standing out front of the apartment building," and Prioleau says, "Well, can you give me a landmark that won't move away?"
Yeah, that was funny.
Did you like the part about when he was the construction worker?
Yeah, I thought that was good. He does kind of go into how messed up it all is. How they're always, the contractors are always one job behind. Like whatever job they're doing at the time is to pay the people from the last job. So they're always one job behind. It was interesting to hear kind of how all that works.
Yeah, and there was a lot of suspicions I've always had about like contractors, and he kind of affirmed some of those beliefs I have that like the contractor he worked for was constantly lying to the homeowner about like when things would be done.
Yeah, and like he said, he had a friend who was a contractor, and he was very honest and always on time. He said, but this guy couldn't even say a sentence without lying to the homeowner.
Yeah, and to me, the best part was, because he would talk about, okay, the roof guys would come in, and then the floor guys. And then
he categorized all them and how they all had different personalities.
Yes, and it was so funny. And then the plumbing. So I
liked how he mentioned Jeff Gordon and how one of them said, one of them, he was a hero to one, and another one said...
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, remember how they were discussing Jeff Gordon? And
some of them thought he was a pansy, and some didn't.
I just thought it was funny how he brought in the conversations, and he showed you how each group was different, and how some talked and some didn't.
So the best part of that was, it was just so funny to hear the personalities of the different groups that come in. But the best part was, he said on one of the very last days of the job, he said this man pulls up in this dilapidated old truck. It's falling apart. He says there's no paint on it. It's just pitiful. He said the guy walks in, looks like he doesn't have a dime to his name. He says he goes in, he does all this finishing work. I'm guessing he means like trim, and doing like custom made type trim and cabinets and things like that. And he said it was beautifully done. He said it was expertly done. Like everything was just fit perfectly. And he said when he was leaving, he was like, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you make for this job?" I forget how many hours he was there, and he was like, probably 3,000.
Yeah, they figured it up. He was making what, like, 150 an hour.
Yeah, whatever it was, he blew away anybody that had been there in what he was making. But by looking at him, you would have never dreamed that he made that kind of money. So, okay. So, is there anything else you want to mention about some of the jobs?
No, I just think we need to let the readers read it, and I don't want to give too much away. If they want to read the book, but Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. No, that's all I had to say.
There was one part in the book that he talks about how spoiled we are as Americans.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He did. There are many, many times in the book that he really brings home how blessed we are as a nation here in the United States. And he makes some really good, valid points throughout the book.
Yeah,
reminding us how blessed we are and how our problems are nothing compared to these third world countries' problems.
Yeah, I want to say it was 3 or 4 paragraphs long, and I would love to be able to just take that and just cut and paste it onto, I don't know, Facebook, whatever, and just let the world read it, or at least Americans anyway. Because everything he said, I agreed with 100%.
To me, one of the biggest points of the book was we get in these really good, white-collar, high-paying jobs,
and we're still not happy.
And then we complain about those jobs and being on the hamster wheel. But why are we in those jobs? Because we want stuff. We want the bigger house, the bigger car. But he also made the point, okay, he and his wife are willing to do without. They don't have to have this. They don't have to that. He said, but man, reality hits home fast. You got to have food and grocery bill, insurance, water, electric, gas. Utilities. To, like he said, you have to pay out the behind just to live in the United States. Right. So his point is, one of the reasons we're stuck in these miserable jobs that we hate is because we just want more and more and more materialism. But on the other hand, there's basic things you have to pay for. You have to pay rent or a house payment maybe, or a car, or insurance, or groceries, your light bill. You want your your electric bill. So he made some good points, and another good point he made was a lot of people were not dealt a fair hand, and they are stuck in these minimum wage jobs, and it's really not enough to even make make it the basics.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it when he talked about, some people that were kind of born, they were born into good families. Mm-hmm. They were born into wealth.
Or the ones that maybe look down their noses.
Look down on, and he's like, hey, and he just reminds people that there are people out there who weren't born into good families.
Right.
That their mom was a crack addict, or their dad died, or they lived in a single. And then talks about how much harder it is for that person to even get an education, to even get a job.
Right.
So I just thought that was a really good reminder not to be judgmental of people.
It's not a fair playing field, and you can't just look down your noses at people who are in these minimum wage jobs, because he made another good point. You take out all middle management and white collar jobs, and what's going to happen to the United States?
Nothing.
Much.
He said nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
He said, but you get rid of all of these minimum wage workers, and the country's going to collapse.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're definitely the wheels of the country.
It's funny though, and I don't even want to get into politics, but because there's incentives not to work,
mm-hmm.
And they're always giving all these stimulus checks and all this benefits at welfare and all that. There's incentive not to work now. And I was watching a show on it the other night, a news story on it, and they were showing just sign after sign after sign of people wanting work. Mm-hmm. They need workers. There's a McDonald's paying a $300 bonus just to get someone to work that minimum wage job because they cannot get people. And then on my way home, went and got my hair done today after school. And on my way home, I saw several signs: help wanted, we need help, we need workers. When there's incentive not to work, all these minimum wage jobs are going unfulfilled, and I'm just going to be very interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's have a little fun.
Okay.
So what was your first minimum wage job? What did you do at that job?
So this is funny. So what our listeners really need to know is how shy we were, right?
Extremely shy.
I feel like we were both extremely shy growing up.
Crippling shy.
Yes, like I think we may have said this before, but I remember when we would go to football games or basketball games, and our friends would go get a Coke or a hot dog or something at the concession stand. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to, because it would mean having to walk in front of people.
Yes.
And I remember if we were at a football game, I would walk behind the bleachers, and my friends would go, "Where are you going?" Mm-hmm. They were perfectly content.
And what's funny is I don't
think
our friends realized how shy we were. I think we kept it.
Either.
I think we kept it hidden pretty well.
I do too, but I remember if I had my choice, I would walk behind the bleachers because I didn't want to walk in front of people.
I still do that to this day.
Me
a lot.
too. Mm-hmm. So having said that, very shy, not very outgoing when we were teenagers. I've changed a lot since then, but we used to go to this little convenience store for lunch when we were in high school. We had an off-campus lunch if we wanted it, so a bunch of us would walk down a few blocks from our school and go to this little convenience store. And back then it was called Fields or Totopoke. I can't remember.
I think it was Totopoke.
I think it had gone from Fields to Totopoke. So they were like a little convenience store with a little gas pump out front, and they did sell like burritos and I don't remember what all they had there.
Anything fried
Maybe
and bad
fried
for
chicken.
you.
Yeah, anything fried and bad for you. And I'll never forget, it was towards the end of school. I think it was my junior year. And one of the managers, a lady that we knew worked there, and she said, I think you would be a good worker. What do you think about working here this summer? And she goes, "You're one of the twins, right?" And I go, "Yeah." So it could have been you. This could have been you. She says, "What would you think about working here this summer?" Well, I was so shy. No people skills. I'm like, okay, sure. I didn't even think about I could say no or let me consider it or let me get back with you. I just remember on the spot going, okay. She goes, "Now, you'll have to be here like at 5 a.m, or maybe it was 6 a.m.
Oh,
so I remember,
right there I'd be thinking, no way.
I know. So I'll never forget this. I remember our parents had a little brown Datsun. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, that's what I drove to work. And I remember getting up like before the sun came up.
Oh my gosh.
In that summer, I think I only worked like part-time hours, like 20, 30 hours a week. But I would go down there and I would park on the side, and they trained me how to work in that store. And there was another girl there, Tanya. I can't think of her last name now. Tanya Condart.
Okay.
And she worked there. And she's like, "Oh, we're going to have so much fun." And I'll never forget, we would go back in the cooler and we would stock the milk. And, of course, people were in and out. But I'll just tell you right now. And then they taught me how to cut the meat, the deli meat, and clean the meat slicer, which was scary. It was sharp.
Yeah.
But the most terrifying thing about the job, absolutely terrifying.
Is it
I
the
dreaded
cigarettes?
it. Yes.
How did I know that?
There was cigarettes, a whole wall of cigarettes. And I never smoked. We never smoked.
Right.
I don't even know the names of these stupid things. Here comes some old redneck in there. Give me a Pall Mall menthol double pack. You can't, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. And I would start.
Marlboro Lights.
Yeah, I just remember like non-menthol or menthol. I'm sure smokers out there are laughing
They probably
at
knew
me.
exactly where they were at, though.
What?
Probably could point them
Okay,
out
so
to
that's
you.
my point. So I would turn around and I would face the wall of cigarettes, and I'm panicking because like there's usually a line of people waiting to pay for their gas, to pay for their Coke, whatever, and I'm like. And it never failed. A little to your right, higher, to your right, right, black, no, green. I mean, they would like start yelling out the color of the package, or if you're hot, you're cold, and it was horrible. I worked there all summer and I never did learn those stinking cigarettes.
Right.
And to this day, when I see all those cigarettes back behind the counters of these convenience stores, I like have a small panic attack. That was the worst part of the store.
Sorry.
And then at night, I remember going out there and like sweeping all the trash and stuff out of the parking lot. So I like the job because you get to see all your friends and people coming in and out. But another part of me, I was terrified because I was scared when there's a big line. And when I had to make a sandwich or something for somebody, I would like kind of freak out. And then, of course, the cigarettes were terrifying. So
Okay.
so that was my first minimum wage job. But somehow I got through that summer and I never went back.
So you did work the whole summer.
I worked the whole summer, I do believe.
Now I'm feeling so guilty. I guess I was at home
like,
asleep.
what were you doing?
Seriously, I think I was home asleep. I don't even remember you being gone. I don't remember
you
ever waking
coming
up
in
and
there.
going, "Where's Joy?"
Looking back, they had a big Slurpee machine. What was I thinking? I could have like totally, Angie, come down there. I could have like totally lured you down there. I'll get you a Slurpee.
Yeah,
But I don't remember you ever being in there when I was there.
I don't remember ever seeing you in there. It's when you mentioned this when we were talking about doing this podcast, and you mentioned having that job. I was like, really? It's like a vague dream or something. That's okay.
What was your first minimum wage job?
Oh Lord. Okay, so my first one was Kmart. And you and I worked there together. Amy Bynum talked us into going and getting a job because we wanted to move out on our own.
Okay, this is right after we graduated.
Right after we graduated, we
I
wanted to
remember
move
this.
out, so we had to go get a job if we was going to have an apartment, right?
Yes, and back then,
Yeah.
Fort Smith had a Kmart.
So they had a
Today
Kmart.
it's a Sutherland's.
And I remember thinking, okay, Kmart, yeah, that can't be too bad. And I remember they had like this really cool little concession stand, and there were at one point they had moved it to the very back, and I was thinking, now that might be cool if I could work back there secluded in the back somewhere. But lo and behold, I was so stinking mad. They made me into a cashier, and you and Amy got to go work in the clothing department.
We got to work in ladies' apparel.
And I've never been more jealous in my life because I was
felt
stuck
so
up
bad
there.
for you.
Yeah.
I promise you. I remember I would see you with a line of people.
Yes.
And I'm back there like straightening clothes, letting people in and out of the fitting room. And there was a storage area above the fitting rooms, and there was a staircase that went up there. And this girl named Jennifer, I don't know what happened to her. She was from Spire, Oklahoma, and she talked like that.
I remember her. She's blonde.
I remember I had a number, like I was 10, 11. We all had employee numbers.
Ooh.
And Jennifer, special. I'll never forget this. She would call me over the intercom. I'm trying to be like this good worker. Our boss was her name was Betty, and she looked like the big redheaded Barbie doll. She was real tough, and she wore real powerful perfume. I remember you couldn't breathe. But anyway, I remember I'm like straightening clothes and trying to make a good impression and trying to make everything look good. And anyway, I remember over the intercom, 10-11 to the fitting room, 10-11 to the fitting room. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I go up there. I'm like, what do you want? She was like, come here. She has me go up the steps to the storage room. She has stolen, it's like around Easter time, she has stolen this huge chocolate bar.
Oh my
I think
goodness.
it was a heart or something. It was huge. She's like, I can't eat this on my own. Help me eat it. Well, that's stealing, of course. And of course, right away I was being convicted. Oh no, you can't take part in that. Well, peer pressure won out. she broke off a big chunk of that chocolate bar, and I'll never forget us eating that chocolate bar. And Angie, I felt so guilty because it was stolen property. And we would sit there and we would spy. Oh, there's a pair of binoculars up there that the security guards would use. Mm-hmm. So we would sit up there and spy on people with those binoculars, and I could see you through the binoculars checking out people sometime.
Oh, yeah, it sucked.
Oh, I'm sure.
It sucked. And here's the worst part. The lady that trained me, think of like, maybe she reminded me kind of a Miss Vineyard, kind of like our first grade choir person. Anyway, she was a teacher. But anyway, she was just picture this kind of real stern, strong woman in her 60s. And her philosophy was like, Kmart on 0 Street, Fort Smith, Arkansas is the best Kmart around, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. And we are the best customer service, and we have the best cashiers.
I don't remember her.
And oh my gosh, all she did was trained new cashiers. Okay, so the guy, they partnered me up with another new hire, and I promise you, he looked just like Weird Al Yankovic.
Okay.
And his name was Sean. That's all I remember is his name was Sean. He had curly hair and the glasses, and he was
I remember him, I think.
He was real dorky, but he was real nice. And she would just brag on him, and she would never say one word about me. And of course, I already had low self-esteem, and I'm like, here I am having to work at stupid Kmart. And then she's like, but now, Sean, you've just got a knack for this. Oh my goodness, I wish we had more like you. And she would just constantly on and brag about him. And then we would practice with customers, and he'd like, hello, welcome to Kmart. I'm Sean. And then I'd be like, hello, welcome to Kmart, and I mean, I always felt like a big goober, anyway, and I remember at one point, and of course I hated it, and then at one point I
liked working at Kmart,
of course because you did.
All I did was
you was up there eating stolen chocolate but anyway, so just the one highlight I remember that was good was I had had this guy walk through my line. He was really nice, this middle-aged gentleman, and he said, I remember you when you first started. I stood in your line and I waited 15 minutes because you were so slow.
Oh, no.
And I was like, gee, thanks. He goes, but now, you've improved a lot and you're just doing a really good job. And I thought, wow, how nice for a customer to take the time out to tell you that you're not slow anymore. Yeah. And then finally, they asked me one day after I'd been there for like several months, they were like, hey, we're going to move you to layaway. And then my supervisor said,
I forgot about that.
My supervisor said, if every time I get a cashier trained that halfway knows what they're doing, they move them to layaway. And I was so happy to get away from that, from the registers. And they put me in layaway, and I loved it. And I was like,
I forgot you were back there.
I got to go upstairs. I had it was a big like attic area where they kept all the layaway items.
Yeah.
And I just remember whenever it was really slow, I would go up there and I could see out over the store. And then, like you said, there was a guy that worked security that would try to catch shoplifters. And the saddest thing I remember was an old man came through my line and he had shoplifted something. He took like a saw out and he exchanged it. He put it in a different box. It was worth more. And anyway, our security guy was right behind him and basically said, sir, were you planning on paying for that? And this is not the saw that goes in that box. And I remember the guy's hands was shaking. And anyway, to this day, that's a sad memory. But
did he go to jail?
I honestly don't know what they did. I think because he didn't walk out the door with it, I think that nothing happened past that point. So,
hey, can I tell another Kmart
story?
Go
ahead.
So it was after closing time, and all the customers were out of the store, and here we go back to Amy Bynum. And they had a bunch of merchandise.
Did we mention who Amy is? So Amy was our friend from high school.
Yeah, and we were roommates.
We lived with her in an apartment.
Together, and we all worked at Kmart together.
Okay.
Anyway, they gave us a whole basket of stuff that, I guess had been misplaced, and we had to go put it all up. They're like, hurry and get this stuff back where it goes so we can leave. Well, I had on these really slick boots, like dress boots, I'll never forget. And Amy had this big, huge thing of diapers. And I remember I said, I'll put the diapers up. She was holding them. I said, here, I'm going out for a pass. I run down the aisle, and she throws the diapers. As I go to catch them, those boots were so slick.
Oh, no.
I slipped backwards. I was right by the shoe department because the lady that worked there saw this, and she told on me. My head hit that concrete so hard that lady from the shoe department came over there and goes, honey, are you okay? I could hear your head crack all the way over in the shoe department.
Oh my gosh.
My head, looking back now, I think I had a concussion.
Oh, sure. Oh,
because it hurt so bad. And then back then I didn't even think about how dangerous it could be. And I had a throbbing headache. That next morning I had to be back at work early. And we had our little team meeting. And my Betty, the big perfume lady, she goes, "Are you okay?"
Oh.
And I kind of looked like,
what do you mean?
What? Yeah, because I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know she knew I'd cracked my head open running through the store. And she goes, "I hear things." I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." She goes, "Yeah, let that be your lesson. Don't ever run in the store." I was like, okay. And she was not happy with me. My other story is I was kind of seeing this guy named Shane from our school.
Oh.
Do you remember Shane?
Oh, yeah.
And...
Studio. Oh,
why is that ringing a bell? Did he?
Because he said that song reminded him of me one time.
Oh, because he liked you for a while.
Just for a little while, but then he really liked you. So
okay. Well, anyway, I didn't even know he was in the store. He was there with like his mom, I think. And you remember how we used to have to do those blue light specials?
I never had to do one. Did you have to announce them?
Yeah, so what they do is they give you this thing to read off over the intercom over the whole store. It's like, today's special is 2 pairs of socks for $5. Please come check it out at our blue. And they would actually do this blue light.
Yeah, there would be a blue light. And wherever the blue light was, you would go find it. And that would be where the big...
don't know,
yeah.
They had blue light specials. And if you saw a blue, almost like
just picture like a
police car.
Picture like a police light. And it's in the middle of the store just
blue. Then people are going to run to that light because that means like the best deal in the store.
Yeah, it's kind of like a doorbuster.
Well, they had me read this blue light special, and at the end, I told what the special was, and I said thank you, and I hang up the phone and turn around, and Shane had been standing behind me the whole time. He goes, "You're welcome," and I bet my face turned 10 shades of red because he had just. I was already
because you had a crush on him.
Well, number one, I was already working at Kmart. I was embarrassed about that.
Right.
Number two, yeah, I had a crush on him, and we were just kind of starting to see each other. And then number three, he heard me read off the blue light special. I was so embarrassed. I guess that's all my stories about Kmart.
Okay, so now I want to ask you, what do you think was your worst minimum wage job and why?
Well, honestly, the daycare we worked at, it wasn't, the people were nice, and, the parents were nice, but being stuck, I had 6 months old. There's like they were all like 6 months to a year, I think. 6 of them and me in a tiny little room, especially when we were in college.
For 8 hours a day.
And when we were in college, yeah, we would, especially in the summer, we would work all day. And, that was tough. And I remember you had 3-year-olds. And I
had 13 3-year-olds, and 10 of them were boys.
Yeah.
It was 10 3-year-old boys and 3 girls. And
I don't know how you made
I don't even want
to
to talk about that. Honestly, I have such horrible memories.
Is that one of your worst?
I mean, the kids were awesome, but I just felt like during that time, I was just, I don't know, I just think I was going through a lot, and I just felt like I wasn't very nice to those kids. Yes, I was married, and I was just kind of depressed because I didn't know what to do with my life, and I loved the kids, and I liked being with them, but honestly, I look back now, and I shouldn't have been, that wasn't the position I should have been in at that time in my life.
And honestly, I don't know what the regulations are now, but that sounds like way too many for one person.
It was just hard. That was especially if you're not...
you being really stressed out.
I was always stressed out.
And didn't you lose a whole lot of weight, and you were super skinny?
I just remember, hindsight's 20/20, I know, but looking back at the state I was in mentally, and I'm not saying I ever did anything to these kids. We were allowed to spank their hands.
Yeah.
And I did spank their hands a lot. And even now, looking back, I feel guilty that I did that.
I know, we were allowed to spank hands too. Yeah. And I remember having a biter, a little boy, and his mom would encourage us, spank his hand. And I would spank his hand every once in a while, but then I'm like, it's not my kid. I felt guilty.
I have a lot of guilt over that job.
I have guilt that I spanked his hand, and it didn't work anyway.
Right. Because I didn't know what I was doing. And see, that right there goes to show you, you don't want to put someone who has no training, who has has never had experience with kids or training. You don't want them in a job like that.
Yeah, I will say that's probably one of my, not because of the people, but just because of the situation.
Yeah, and like I said, my kids, they were just being kids, but it's just really hard to control 13 kids.
Well, that's too many for one person.
Yeah, I agree.
Way too many.
So one story I did want to tell was I did take a job just real briefly at Olin Mills.
I forgot about that.
Yes, and so that's Olin Mills, for those who don't know. It's a place where you well, back in the old days, you would go get your picture taken. You would be photographed, you and your family. Well, they told me, well, it's just a receptionist job. Well, it was a receptionist, but there was a catch. During my downtime, I had to make phone calls and solicit people to try to come in and get their picture taken.
Right.
And the catch was, hey, you get a free 8x10 portrait if you'll come in and do a sitting, which was true. You got an 8x, but when they come in and did it, then of course they try to give you the package.
Right.
They try to sell you a really expensive package. So I always felt guilty because I always felt like I was calling these little grandmothers and like people who didn't have money, and then they'd be like, no, I get a free picture. Oh, okay, well, honey, yeah. And then every once in a while, occasionally I would get people to come in. But the thing that I remember most about that job was you were supposed to dress, like they had a dress code, and I remember I didn't have a whole lot of money. I couldn't, I just barely could afford to dress. I'd try to wear khakis and a nice shirt or something. Well, they brought this lady in from Tulsa, and I guess she was like a regional sales manager or something, whatever, and I'm convinced she was there to spy on me. I felt like she had someone else in mind for that job, and maybe the sales were down, and she felt like I was part of the reason why. And of course, it's true. I wasn't making phone calls as much as I should have because I didn't want to bother people.
Right.
And I remember she went in and she picked this office that was catty corner to me, and she kept the door open, and you could just see right into where I was sitting.
Oh, boy.
And for about 2 hours, I could tell she was just sitting there listening to me. So of course, I picked up the phone. I started making my phone calls. I started making the sales pitch. Oh, it was
having
awful.
to cold call
And
people.
I was like, oh my gosh, not only do I hate what I'm doing, but I have this snooty lady from Tulsa who's in there eavesdropping, and obviously I'm sure she doesn't think. And then she mentioned something to someone about I wasn't to dress code. I wasn't wearing what, and of all days, I think I'd worn something maybe that was similar to jeans or something. Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, that's probably one of my worst jobs. But I also had some fun doing it. But that wasn't a good memory. This is just kind of depressing because most of my minimum wage jobs I hated them, and most of them were very depressing. We both also worked
at a factory at Whirlpool.
Oh yes, we worked at Whirlpool.
Hot, miserable work, and it convinced me. I will say, after that summer in a factory working in 100+ degrees, up to 120 at one point for me, I will say, and getting gropped out by bosses for stuff I did not even have anything to do with.
And we need to mention right here, our dad worked at a factory for almost 40 years, and our mom worked at a factory for 25. And the factory we worked at was Whirlpool, which is the same place our mom worked at. And I'll never forget one of my first nights, and I had an easy job. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was making decent money, probably the most money I'd ever made at a job, and it was an easy job. But I remember there was a clock that was like 2 feet, it was on a pole right beside me, and I remember looking at the clock thinking, surely it's almost time to go home, and it had been 2 hours.
I remember,
and I wanted to die.
I remember the time going so slowly, and I just remember thinking, how did our mom do this for 25 years?
It gave me such respect. And when I worked at Rheem, I worked at a factory, Rheem, that it's a national company. They make air conditioners, and I worked there for around 15 years. And I cannot tell you, and I worked in human resources in the office. Yes, a big difference. But I cannot tell you how many of the hourly workers there made it a point to bring in their kids for summer help because they didn't want their kids to work in a factory. Right. They wanted them to see this is not what you want to do. Right. Now, I'm not saying there are some people who love their jobs in factories. I'm not saying that, and I'm not putting down people because trust me, after working there for 15 years, I have tremendous respect for factory workers, and we need factory workers. I'm just saying though that for the most part, from what I experienced, most of them wanted better things for their children. Yeah. So, okay. So, anything else you want to mention before I've got a little pop quiz for you?
I'm just surprised you haven't mentioned your Girl Scouting time.
Oh,
wasn't that a minimum wage job?
Well, actually, you know what?
Is that part of the trivia?
To end the show, I was going to ask you if you could name every job you've ever had in order, and briefly say what you did at each.
I don't think I can, but I could try.
Okay, let's just try.
Okay, so I worked at Toda Poke.
Toda Poke. Hey, what's the theme song to that?
Let's sing it.
Toda Poke.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know the rest of it? Oh, crap, I thought you might know it.
Then I worked at Kmart.
Okay.
That would be right out of school.
And that you worked in the ladies apparel. Okay.
Then I worked at Whirlpool for that summer.
Okay. What did you do there?
Whirlpool, I worked, I made like plastic liners on this press, and this guy walked up to me and goes, "You need to be careful because people have lost their hands and arms in that." And I was like, "Okay."
Cool.
About that time, this guy walks by with a hook for a hand.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, "There's one of them right there." And I thought he was kidding around with me. But eventually I ended up talking to that guy, and he had lost his hand in that very press I was working.
Oh, so you actually ran a press?
Yes, I ran a press that made plastic liners for refrigerators.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and then after it came out of the press, I had to lift it off, and I had this like a box knife type deal, and I had to shave off the rough parts.
Okay.
Okay, I'm getting off track here.
Okay,
so
all right.
Whirlpool.
Okay.
Then I did, while I was in college, I did Windsor Park Daycare for quite a while. From there, I went to college in Fayetteville. And I did another daycare, La Petite, or whatever daycare.
Okay.
Then I ended up at a Bible bookstore, Feed My Sheep, which I love that job, you know, just selling.
You just work behind the counter?
It was like a Christian store, yeah. I worked behind the counter, dusted, straightened. I love that. I did love that job. And then after Feed My Sheep.
Did you go to the Walmart home office after that?
Yes, that's when yeah, I'm glad you can remember.
Well, I'm just thinking Fayetteville, you had to work there.
I worked at the Walmart home office for about 2 years in a cubicle, and that was a minimum wage job. Loved the people, hated the job. Then came back here, and by this time I had a degree to teach. But at that point, I was like, I just don't know if I can teach. I don't know if I can do it for a living. After my student teaching experience was pretty bad. And I was looking for a job and ended up doing census. I remember one summer working for the census, and then I was helping our aunt clean houses for a while.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I just broke down and said, I can't make it on these minimum wage jobs. I just can't do it. I have to.
Oh, is that why you were doing those minimum wage jobs? Because you thought you weren't actually going to teach?
Yes, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life.
Oh, I just thought you were doing that while you were looking for a job for teaching. I didn't know that.
No,
I'm learning so much
after
tonight.
My student teaching
I do not know my twin sister like I thought I did.
After my student teaching experience, I was discouraged, and I thought, I can't do that the rest of my life. I just can't. It's not for me. But then I felt so guilty because our parents had paid for my a bachelor's degree. It's expensive, you know, very. And I was like, I can't. So I worked a few minimum. You know, I did the census. I was just looking for anything. There was just nothing around here, and I just bit the bullet and said, I gotta teach. I just have to. And that's when I went to Mansfield and taught speech, Spanish, and English. And then I went to Greenwood, and then Hackett, and then back to Greenwood, and just teaching now for 21 years. I may have left out a job or two, but I think that's the majority of them.
Okay.
Can you name all yours?
Well, I actually cheated. I wrote mine down.
No, fair.
But just real quickly. So my very first job was Kmart, and we've already discussed that. And then I also worked at Whirlpool with you. Well, you and Amy went there first.
We had several jobs together: Whirlpool, Kmart, and daycare.
Those were the three we worked together. And I remember you guys went to Whirlpool first. I was scared to leave Kmart. Yeah. And then Amy was like, "Angie, come on. We make so much more money there."
Yes. Quit Kmart.
But I knew it wasn't a full time. It was going to end.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so you were probably actually the smarter one because Walmart was just a summer deal. Kmart.
And you know what? One thing I forgot about Whirlpool was I had a really easy job, but I worked around. I don't know why, but for some reason I worked around a bunch of guys my age. They were all summer students, and they were all these. How do I say this? They were super smart, kind of, they weren't, how do I say this? I don't want to sound, they were kind of geeky, nerdy type guys, but you could tell they were all super smart. And for some reason, at every break, they would all just come crowd around me.
Well, I wonder why. The only girl.
Well, I know, and that probably sounds conceited, because and I don't mean that to be conceited, but I think I was the only girl in the department. And so at break, and I worked right by our cousin Carrie.
Oh, I didn't know
Carrie
that.
was right in front of me, and she would run the screwdriver, and she would look up at me with all these guys around me, and she would just start laughing, and she looked at me one day, she goes, "You're just too nice." I thought she says, "You're just really nice," like that, and I was laughing. And anyway, and then one night, one of them who was the stud of the group, and he was real short, but he was kind of cute. Yeah. But I didn't really like him. But anyway, he and another of the guys come up, and they wanted me to go see Pretty Woman. Okay. With Julia Roberts, because it had just come out. Okay. And I said, okay, sure. Well, I went out in the parking lot, because we didn't get off till 1 o'clock in the morning. And to my surprise, Corby was waiting on me. We were dating. Oh. We were dating at the time. Okay. And I remember feeling so bad, because I wanted to go with them. And I remember, and what makes me wonder, how could we have saw a movie at 1 o'clock in the morning? that doesn't make sense to me now. But anyway, I remember going back to him and going, I'm sorry, my boyfriend's here. I can't go.
Oh, no.
And they were, and I could tell that they were so disappointed that I turned them down, that I couldn't go. But it was just real sweet. And even to this day, I've often wondered, because there was there's two guys in particular that I thought were super nice, and they kind of remind me like not like Bill Gates, but I just guarantee you they have really good jobs and are making some big moves.
Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
I promise you, they made something of their lives. They were just those type of people.
Well, that's funny because I had several guys around me that were paying attention to me. Once again, probably because I was the only girl in the department, pretty much. And one of them was like a rock and roller. He had the real big frizzy fro, and he always wore like Metallica shirts, and he would always come talk to me. And another one drove a car out at Tri-State, car racing. And he kept on and on. They were having a powder puff derby where the girls drive, and he's on and on, want me to drive his car.
You're bringing back so many memories.
In the powder puff derby, and he knew that. I guess he knew Corby, because Corby used to drive out there, and he's like, you can race your sister could get in Corby's car, and you can have my car, and y'all can race it out on the track.
I wonder who it was.
His name was, oh my gosh, I just lost it. He was from Bonanza, I think. It's right on the tip of my tongue. John Hall?
That does sound familiar. It sounds very familiar.
Anyway, I had the metal kind of rock and roll dude, then I had this guy, kind of redneck car racer, and I can't remember the other guy, but they were the three that would come over, and we would always talk at break.
Okay.
So,
and do you remember they would push the little cart around at break time that had Cokes and candy bars on
sandwiches. I forgot.
Yeah, and I'd always go over and I'd always get me a candy bar and a Coke.
Yeah, and I remember getting a sandwich I'd go sit out where the big, huge 18-wheelers would pull in, the big docks. And just to get air. It was so hot in that factory. I remember I'd go and I'd watch the sun go down and eat my sandwich and drink my water and feel sorry for myself because I would be by myself and it was so hot. And I just remember feeling really lonely. It was a lonely job. When you work on those presses, you're not around people.
That is weird that they put you. It's just odd to me they put a young 18-year-old girl on a press like that. But that's just my thinking.
And those guys, I would talk to them every once in a while. But I remember just sitting on that, where those 18-wheelers come in, on that dock at Whirlpool and watching the sun go down and feeling that breeze come through there, just kind of feeling lonely.
And one other thing I remember about it was that it was so loud you couldn't talk to anybody.
Yes, and that's I know we're going on and on here, but that's another bad memory I have. We were at Whirlpool, and I had this boss. He was kind of mean, and of course, once again, we're real timid, shy people, and I'm just coming out of my shell and trying to, learn how to live in the world, and he came over there and he got all of our department together and he was yelling about something and he looked real mad, and there was an older lady, I'm guessing she was in her 60s, and I looked at her and I said, I can't hear him because it was so loud because of the machinery. Right. And she goes, it's okay, I'll explain to you later what he's saying. And so a few minutes later he got through talking, and she said he was just saying that we've let a few defective liners go through, and this cost the company so much money per liner, and watch for this and this. I go, okay. Well, a few minutes later, he pulls me over there, and he goes, I don't know who you think you are, disrespecting me like that in front of the whole group. Over there laughing and not paying any attention whatsoever to what I had to say. He just starts griping me out from one end to the other. I'm almost in tears because I don't even know. I'm like, he said I was disrespectful, little punk, basically.
Yeah,
so I was a disrespectful,
just assumed you were
smart alecky little punk. And I was like, I was so taken aback, and I was so about to cry. I was so embarrassed I was about to cry, and I was so insulted because we're not like that. Right. We're respectful. We're like, yes sir, no sir. Right. I would never have disrespected him. And the fact that he thought I had and was chewing me out, and then he just walked off. And I didn't even defend myself because I was so shocked that he was accusing me of being disrespectful and not listening to him. He thought, for some reason, he had it in his mind that I was over there goofing off and laughing and stuff while he was trying to tell us these important things. You know? So anyway...
Gosh, I had no idea this was going to be such a good discussion.
I'm not bitter at all.
I know.
What is this, 30 years later?
I really do feel like I'm having all these horrible memories, and it's bringing up all this, bad emotions and sad and anger, and Oh gosh. Anyway,
Oh,
here
here's
we are.
another.
We're at 53
I
minutes,
know,
and I
and
still have
haven't-
several jobs
and
to talk
I
about.
know, and you're still going through your jobs. I won't even talk about my venture job where I found my dog ran over in the road, and it was like 2 days before Christmas. I found my little Pomeranian. She'd been run over in the road, but Mom was like, "Go to work, get to work," you know. And I went to work, and I'm bawling my eyes out. I can't quit crying, and I had a boss there who just kind of scoffed and was like, "What's wrong with her?" And somebody goes, "Oh, her dog got killed." She's like, "Get over it."
Oh,
And
wow.
go work
really?
the jewelry counter.
She said, "Get over it?"
Something to that effect. I mean, I don't remember, but it was something. It was very cold hearted.
No compassion.
No compassion. And I know
Wow.
she's just thinking, oh, some little drama queen. And I had to go out there and work the jewelry counter just an hour or two after
I'm
finding
sorry,
Chelsea.
This is awful. I'm
I
sorry,
know.
but we went from you want fries with that, laughing
I
our heads off, to now
know.
we're venting about
But
our
I'm
past
just saying, there was like 50 people at this jewelry counter. I'm doing everything I can to not bawl my eyes out and show people gold rings.
Right.
And these
You
minimum
know,
wage jobs had some
I do
tough
remember.
times.
I do remember this. I remember Mom telling me about Chelsea getting run over, and I remember saying, "And Joy went to work." And Mom,
Oh, she was the one that pushed me out the door.
Mom goes, "Yeah." I said, "I can't," and I remember saying, "I can't believe she went to work."
Yeah.
I really remember saying that.
And I know she was just showing tough love, but
Yeah.
she was worried I was going to be late.
Right.
She's like, "Oh, hurry, go. We'll take care of Chelsea. You're going to be late.
And
Go
see,
to
that's
work."
how we were raised. Like,
Yeah,
even
you
now, I
just
look
push
back,
through.
and no matter all my jobs I've ever had, I went to work sick. I felt like crap. And of course, not everybody I worked with, but certain people I worked with just really took advantage of everything.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
here
I know all
and now I
kinds of
look back and I
people.
think, why did I kill myself and going on days that I did not feel
know.
good? You know, but that's just how we were raised.
I
You
know.
went
I
in no
remember
matter
one year
what.
at Hackett,
You didn't miss school. You didn't miss work.
Prided myself because I went the whole year without missing one day. And looking back, I'm like, those days I felt like crap, or those days it'd probably been better if I had stayed home for the kids and not get other people sick.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry. We're on your jobs and
No.
we're getting off on all these sob stories.
I mean, there's lots of good stories in here to tell.
Okay.
So, Kmart, Whirlpool, Daycare, Windsor Park, yes, I was a Girl Scout counselor at Camp Cahenio.
Which I have a girl in my class now who goes to Camp Cahenio every year, and she showed me pictures, and I told her how we grew up or had a sister, and how you were a camp counselor at Camp Cahenio. And I told her the story, which I hope you're going to tell.
Oh, okay. So the way I found out about this job, I was working out at Westark. I was taking a couple of classes. I was still doing classes here and there
This is a community college.
Junior college at Westark. And there was a pamphlet in the dressing room from where I worked out, and it was about Camp Cahenio being a counselor. And so I went and applied, and I got it, and I spent 6 months. Not 6 months, 6 weeks at Camp Cahenio. It's a little Girl Scout camp in Arkansas, and where they assigned me, I slept out in a tent every night across this little lake, and every morning we had to get in our little canoes and row across the lake and go to the main cabin where we had breakfast. Now, you want me to tell the story about the girl who woke up screaming?
Yes.
Okay, so we all had camp names, and mine was Twinkie, of course. Imagine that, Twinkie. And one of the girls' name, the other counselor's name was Boo. And Boo had this uncanny ability. She could sound exactly like a mountain lion. And when I say she could sound exactly like a mountain lion, I'm not exaggerating. She would do it, and you would literally, your eyes would pop out, and you would be amazed and you're like, that can't be a person that just did that.
Right.
So they decided one night she was going to do it with this certain group of girls we had. She comes over and around, we'd all just got down in our tents. Everybody's real nice and quiet. Probably hadn't been asleep 30 minutes. She comes over and does it. Well, one of the girls starts hyperventilating.
Oh, no.
And we cannot get her to, we keep telling her it's not real. We cannot get her to quit. Finally,
we cannot
convince her it's not real. We finally have to. Then we start yelling for Boo, like for 10 minutes. Finally, she wouldn't come out no matter what we did. I don't know why. Finally, we get her come there, and then we have her do it in front of this girl, and then she finally stops, and she's able to calm down.
It's funny but sad.
And then another night, a girl had a really like a night terror or a really bad dream, and she woke up in the middle of the night like 3 o'clock in the morning screaming. So I just woke up out of a deep sleep, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're out in these very secluded woods across from, not away from everyone. Do not have a clue why this girl's screaming. And I just remember running out of my tent, and I wore contacts at the time. I didn't have them in, and I remember I couldn't see. It was really dark, and I just remember running toward her sound, me and a couple of the other counselor that I was with, until we found her. And I was terrified because I didn't know why she was screaming. You know, you've heard some horrible stories.
Yeah.
And she just had a really bad dream. So.
Wow. I just think it's cool that you took 6 weeks of your life to be a Girl Scout counselor.
I loved it. Now, some of the girls I work with, the other counselors, I felt like I was in that, you know, some of these movies where, you know, like you go to these real tough schools and you're thrown in with all these tough girls. That's kind of how I felt. I felt like a fish out of water, like I didn't fit in. But as far as the actual campers, I bonded with them, and I took to them, and they took to me, and that was worth it. So that made it worth it. And I'm not saying I didn't like all the other counselors, but there was some of them that was a little rough around the edges that I just didn't really click with. But for the most part, it was
trying
a good
to be drill sergeants at a Girl Scout camp.
They were just they had just some really rough lives, and I'd been very sheltered.
Yeah.
And so they were nice, but I just didn't fit in with them. So anyway, but overall, it was a good experience. Okay, so then after that, I went to OBGYN and Associates. The name says what that is. And I worked for 7 doctors, and my job was to go, all the lab work would come to me. This is before computers, okay? All the lab work would come to me, and my job was to go find the charts and put the lab with the charts and take it to the doctor's desk. Sounds easy?
Right.
Sounds easy. And
no, it really doesn't. Before
my job was basically going on wild goose chase every day, looking for charts that didn't exist or someone had tucked away in a cubicle. So the nurses, a lot of times the nurses would have them, the doctor would have it, billing would have it. You never knew. There was no tracking system. So my job was to basically every day go look for a needle in a haystack every day, looking for these charts.
I remember you being stressed at that job.
And it sounds crazy. And then I would have to run messages to the doctors, and I'd have to answer the phones, and it was a switchboard that had like 7 lines, and I would have to call for and one of the doctors had a God complex. But now one of the doctors was extremely good looking, so I got to look at him every day.
That was worth it.
So that was worth it. So anyway, from there I went to Hope Crock Clinic Radiology. I transferred to there. I was there for a while. Then from there I went to Hope Crock Clinic Human Resources. That's how I got into HR. And then from there I went to Ream Human Resources, and then from there I went to I've had a lot of jobs. And then I went to Graphic Packaging. I worked there for about 2 years in Human Resources, and then I ended up at a local fire department, which is where I am today.
Which
the end.
I am jealous of.
I love, and I have to say all of it was worth it because I actually have a job that I absolutely love.
You are a rare, what Angie has right now is what I feel is just rare. A job that's not stressful, that is flexible. She can take off when she really needs to.
Yeah, it's very flexible.
It's very low stress, very laid back. It's right down the road from where I teach. So what's cool is I get to go eat lunch with her a lot.
Yep.
And
I have a really good boss.
You can almost see where we work from each other. To me, that's kind of cool that here we are, 50 years old. And been apart from each other a lot throughout our life, like when I went off to college.
Yeah, I always thought that we would always be doing something together, like we'd be in the same field, and we kind of went our separate ways. But I really feel like if I had gone to college at Fayetteville, maybe I would have done the teaching route. Maybe I don't. Who knows?
I just think it's cool that I could lift up a few buildings and houses, and I could actually see where you work from where I work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I always thought, in like doing this, but my favorite thing I've done so far in life, and I'm not kidding, is this podcast. I've had more. This podcast has brought me more joy than anything I've ever done in life. And of course, my dream is that we could do this for a living. But we're still having fun doing what we're doing. But I'm just so happy.
I think my dream job would be to be a librarian during the day.
Yeah.
And
Podcaster by night.
Podcaster by night.
Hey, that sounds like the name of a book or a movie.
Or a bumper sticker.
Librarian by day, podcaster by night.
Yeah, I think that would kind of be my dream life.
So,
I don't have to be a librarian. I could totally do this for a living.
Okay, now do me a favor. On this, we are hitting an hour. This is an extremely long podcast. I didn't mean for it to go this long. And we've basically just talked about ourselves and our crappy jobs in our past. So we probably need to put not a disclaimer or
we
a
could put on
warning.
here, yeah. If you don't want to, if you just want to hear about the book, it's from this.
Yes, you need to do a
frame
marker,
time.
and then if you want to hear about our crappy jobs, it's from this point on.
And can I add this?
Yes.
Because no one ever does this, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. We have a link that we put on our Buzzsprout called, I always forget the name of it.
Pipe speak?
Sound pipe speak.
Yeah.
I would love it if our listeners, someone would call in and tell us about your crappiest job. What is your worst minimum wage job you've ever worked? Now, the only thing is it only gives you 90 seconds.
Oh, that's true.
But I feel like that's enough time to give a real brief description of the job and why it was so crappy.
Yeah.
So somebody, please leave us a message on that and tell us about your worst minimum wage job.
Yeah, and I also
want to play it.
That's a good idea. Very good idea. And I also want to, I don't know, did you know that Outsiders just hit 100 downloads?
No.
Yeah.
Yay!
So our very first
That's
episode
big time for us.
that we ever published hit 100 downloads the other day. And I
That's
know,
exciting.
you know, if for people that have really big followings, that's
like hundreds of thousands of
yeah, that's not a big
people.
deal. But for us, that's a big deal.
For us, 100 is huge.
Yes.
I'm excited.
So I'm very excited because we didn't even know if anybody would listen.
I know.
So anyway, I guess I need to quit rambling, but
That's exciting.
it's kind of been bittersweet talking about
I know.
this.
I feel like it's fun to talk about your minimum wage jobs, but boy, it did bring up a lot of sad and bad memories for me.
Yeah, me too. But I guess in retrospect, you know,
maybe
what
it makes
we can
us appreciate what we have now.
What we can learn from this is, and for everyone out there, we just need to remember that these people who do these low-paying jobs, you know, and what we consider the lower rung of the ladder, we need to really remember what they're going through.
Yeah,
they're just trying to make it.
The
struggle is real. They're just trying to make a living just like everybody else. Let's support them, encourage them, and leave them a good tip. My gosh,
yeah, leave them a good tip. Yeah. Amen.
All right. Well, just real quickly, are you reading any books right now?
Yes. Right now, I'm reading The How and the Why.
Okay.
And matter of fact, I think we're about to do another podcast.
Okay.
Or are we?
I don't know. After this one, it's been long.
Yeah.
The How and the Why.
I'm reading The How and the Why, and I'll tell you what, next time we talk about our books, I'm going to tell you all about it because it's pretty fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reading, I think I mentioned this the last time, but I'm still reading Paul Revere and the World He Lived In.
Oh, okay.
And it's been pretty dang interesting.
Oh, maybe we can do a podcast
and remember I told you there's
that.
nothing out there about our founding fathers as far as trivia? Well, I'm finding out all kinds of neat information about some of the founding fathers that he grew up with.
Oh, cool.
So pretty interesting, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll get off of here and decide whether we've got energy to do another podcast or not.
Sounds
so
good.
Until then, we will see you next time on
Twin Talk.